Hi there, welcome to my channel. My name's Jenny with Planner Perfect, and in today's video, what to do when your plans don't work out. Stay tuned. Okay, guys, I'm going to just expound upon a question I got in yesterday's YouTube. I really feel like this is a question I get quite often, so I thought it would be a good video to talk about. What do you do when your plans don't work out? Like, what do you do? And a lot of people will say, well, I don't even like, planning is just, I don't even want to really start out and do it because what if my plans change, or this happens, or this happens, or this happens? And boy, do I have some tips for you on this. As being a Planner Perfect method founder and has done this all of my life, there are some huge hacks that you can use to be preemptive so that you don't have this kind of struggle. Number one, it depends on the season that you're in. Okay, so if you're in a season being a mom with littles, be prepared for your day not to go as planned. That's the plan, is to not plan like you don't have little ones. You need to plan like you have little ones. So, I mean, it sounds funny, but I know a lot of women who have high expectations when they are trying to organize, manage, and raise children, that they think that it's going to go well and to plan. And they're just hopeful. They have high hopes. They want to plan with this method, let's say, or they're planning out this full pages of all of their dreams for that day. Here's the problem, is that you must account for the season that you're in and plan and leave huge gaps so that there's times to allow for meltdowns, for issues that might arise, for temper tantrums, all of those kind of things that we're responsible for. It's part of what we do as mothers to help manage that and help them through these emotions. So, children and their emotions, and allotting time to be patient and peaceful when they're going through it is top priority for me. Was I always like that? Heck no. I've had 8 kids, so navigating through those waters took a journey to understand that, instead of being reactive, to being more understanding of each child, to being more patient, to be more understanding, to understanding them more, to trying to circumvent ways that doesn't come into any issues, to just stuff like that. Their emotional quotient matters to me most, and it should you too. That way it's less stressful for you. It's less stressful for them, and you've got gaps in your day to be flexible. The one big thing you should plan is flexibility. Sometimes I'll plan one big event in the day or on one of the days during the week, and I will definitely plan for it. If they're older, then that kind of is, then that changes the game. But if they're small, they're always going to have the opportunity to throw a wrench in the day. So take account for it, leave gaps in your day so that you can be flexible if that happens. A lot of times I'll even do a plan B in case something completely hits the fan, and be like, you know what? We're gonna have a home day, and this is plan B. And I'll even do a section for plan B. I've been known to do that just with my grandchildren, because I've been watching my grandchildren full time now for Waylon is 7, so he's in school now, which it breaks me in two. Okay, and now Wesley has started preschool, and it's like their mind gone to school, and I miss them so bad. I had them all summer. I get them in the summers since they started, but I had Waylon and Wes their whole baby lives full time. They are as close to me as my own children, that I raised. And I just always had a plan B. So I kind of like always had them be carting around with me, and it was a plan B. Now, if you're talking about now, a number 2 reason is that you're just not planning in a way that sets you up for success. Number 1, you need to understand what you want out of that day and how you're going to ensure that that's going to happen. And that, with scripting, it comes with that package. So if you're not used to scripting, then this is where you'll be able to connect the dots once you get into true scripting. Because with scripting, you can't help but be a choreographer, because when you start writing down how you're going to do something and why, and you start really visualizing, can I just say too that, you know, so I love the science behind how the mind works and how God made us, but when you really are relaxed and you're planning your day and you're just dreaming and thinking, you're really in this theta state, which your brain waves are much larger. And that is more of your subconscious mind that's when, and this is why this method works. I'm always like, that's why. But your mind is your subconscious mind, not your conscious mind, your subconscious mind that makes things happen. That mind is open and receptive to take things in. And so it's a beautiful thing. So when you're scripting, you are thoroughly mapping out how you're going to make something happen. Someone did an example for me, which I just love, and I'm just going to do it again here. She said, because I have one of my son's wedding this weekend. Now, it's very different if I was the bride's mom. So it's not like I've got a ton to do. But we were the ones who were cooking the food, and I'm doing some of the dessert, and you know, it's just getting my other sons ready and dressed, and who live here, and you know, there's just that kind of a stuff. But anyway, I had mentioned in one of my plan with me is that, you know, hey, but I don't want to be taking these cupcakes because they're busy, but it's like, I didn't know what that was going to look like, because I was in charge of making these cupcakes and buying these cupcakes, and how was I going to be bringing these to the wedding? I certainly didn't want to be dressed up and carrying 7, you know, dozen cupcakes, and I just didn't want that noise in the morning. I kind of just wanted to make sure that that was all done and kind of situated, and how can I make that happen? And she said, the gal who did ask this question, she said, but what if you plan full well that you're not, and then they decide that they want you to bring them? So basically, that was a perfect question, is that you just want to really cover all your bases. So like when I was even scripting out my days, I was like, okay, I need to call my daughter-in-law to be and say, hey, this is what I'm up against. I really prefer not to bring these on the day. Is there a place we can have these in the venue where they have, you know, fridges and things like that, where when your family gets in there in the morning, you know, mind you, if they wanted me there to help in the morning, I would have accounted for that, but they're not wanting me. So I just, where I was at, my role was the cupcakes. And so I was just accounting for what my role was. Can I get them there, and can I do it the day before? And I made sure that phone call was made, and that my preference was that I didn't want to come and toggle this and be nervous about traveling dressed up with kids and going with all of this. We had a lot to bring because we smoked out the meat even, and there was barbecue sauce. I mean, I was like, I don't want this noise on the day. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, with even my dress, it's like, I have to be careful with how I even bend over. So it's like, it's not a mini skirt. It's just one of those things that you kind of got to ensure that it's in a good place. I don't want that kind of like that kind of stress. And so I really just made sure that I told her what I needed to do. And that was, since I was the one doing the food, I really needed to get there the day before. And if that didn't fly with her, but she's so flexible and easy anyways, is that I would have had either my older sons come and grab it Saturday morning. I would have just made it happen. I would have told my husband to do it. I would have been like, listen, I'm not doing this, so it's on you. But I would have just made sure and planned for the fact ahead of time and troubleshoot it ahead of time. And that's what you're doing when you're doing the method. You are virtually troubleshooting your life. I mean, it's almost bulletproof if you do it right. So, I mean, now that I don't have, you know, temper tantrums that could potentially, or meltdowns that could potentially ruin a day, I'm pretty bulletproof in my days, only because, you know, when I go, and the only way that I would ever have a day be changed is if I personally decided to change it up last minute. Like, you know what, I don't feel like this. Let's go bowling, boys. You know, and that's different because that's my intention and that's what I want to do and I want to change it up. And it's no big deal. And I'll just write my planner, you know, hey, went bowling instead, and I'll put in like a sticker of a photo of us bowling that day, and then I'll just move over the next day because I could be flexible. That's different, because when you're talking about really sabotage that can happen, depending on your circumstance, I always want to be more in control of my days as much as possible, obviously. I mean, so these are my days. So knowing what I want, knowing how I want it to be done, who could be the saboteurs? The only ones who could really be a saboteur would be children. I mean, because otherwise, what are we doing in life? I mean, I'm not going to let other people control and puppeteer me all the time and tell me, hey, I'm going to need this. Now, obviously, if you're working in a workplace, this doesn't even apply, because now you're under someone else's headship. And so that between 9 to 5 or something like that, that's what you do. And that's not even applying a scripting method, maybe being home, managing a home, doing your own business from home. That's different. And so your umbrella of being would be on those days where you're scripting your days. Okay. So I'm sure you guys get that, but I want to clarify. So I by knowing what I want and writing that down and choreographing it in a way that works with people I love. Hey, you want to go hit this museum? Do you like that idea? I like to troubleshoot before I write down the intention, which saves me so many problems. I mean, I completely avoid them altogether. Because when you're scripting, I'm like, oh, I better check in with someone here. I better make sure that works for them. I better make sure that this is good to go. And so your sabotage problems or issues would be very far and few in between. I mean, so you can, of course, allot for someone where it's just once in a while, where it's an emergency. But other than that, if someone came to me and said, hey, I need you to do this, you know, and, you know, can you do this for me? And I would be like, really evaluating, hey, you know what, my day is pretty set and I'm going to be doing this, this, and this, but I can do it here on this day. So you see what I'm saying? Because I know what I want, I'm able to say yes and no to things that come up very easily. Or let's say that, hey, you know what? I could move this over to another day. Sure, I can do this. You know what I'm saying? If your days are mapped and choreographed to the way that you want them to go, you've done the preemptive work where you've checked in with people, you've checked in with older children or younger children, you've done the work and you've checked here and you've got it really figured out of things that maybe could not work, but what you can do instead. Sometimes I need a plan B just in case it's not all within your realm of control. That's a good idea too, if that kind of situation does exist. I don't like to live by plan Bs, and I don't like plan Bs actually. But when it comes to children, I'll do a plan B. Or if we're on vacation, maybe, you know, like, hey, this is what I want to do, but plan B, just in case everyone wants to bail, because it's more flexible. So, but when you're really on a trajectory and you're living your life and you're going places and you're moving the needle and you've got things that you're doing and you're serious about it, you should really stay true to your plan and not let anyone sabotage that plan. So, and when you know what you want and you know where you're going, it makes it easy for you to be able to say yes or no to anyone who's interfering with the plan. So it just like with me, with like, let's just say my future, daughter-in-law, she says, hey, listen, I changed my mind. I really need these just on the day. I don't have a fridge space. Then my husband's going to have to go and do this. Or I'm going to have to call one of my older sons and say, hey, I'm going to need you to come and to get this and grab it. And I know my sons would. So, So that's my plan B. But I also know that Friday is going to totally work. I've already talked to Gabe and I've already talked to Olivia, and they said there's plenty of room and space and blah, blah. So Friday works. So it's just like, I am very much so, when you are a planner, and I'm always planning like a good week in advance, I'm going through all scenarios. I'm figuring out when I'm going to make the cupcakes. I'm figuring out, well, hey, if I'm going to make a chantilly cake and it requires berries on it, I don't want weeping on it, so I better put the berries on Saturday. I'm going through all the troubleshoots so I don't run into snags, Whereas if I just didn't write or think through anything first, if I'm making homemade chantilly cupcakes for part of that wedding and I just start, like them, I always love bringing them up with that Muppet Baker. I'm with my flour and making it and putting it on there, and then I don't even really know how I'm transporting it. I had to figure that out. And what the berries, do they weep? Where am I putting these? How do I cover it? Blah, blah. You troubleshoot everything when you aren't intentional about your life and you're scripting it, and when I'm done making them, so I had to be like, okay, I'm going to bake them here. I'm going to freeze them because I want them to be extra fresh. I'm going to then thaw them. I'm going to make sure I've got that frosting. And then when I get there, I even talked to Olivia, talking to her about when to put those berries on and how we've got to do that. So it's you're troubleshooting when you script. So that question is a good question, and scripting solves that problem. Scripting is a long-handed way of transcribing what you want in longhand so that you are almost creating the day in your mind before it's even happened. It creates flow. It lights up the subconscious mind so that it almost creates you to walk robotically like you've already lived that day. And you don't even have to hardly reference it. It just makes things happen for you. The subconscious mind makes things happen. It just does. It helps you move. It reminds you. It pushes you. It makes you flow. So when you give it a lot of detail and you're in a really relaxed state, you'll even get those God downloads. You'll get that valuable idea, that valuable knowledge of what you need to know too. I mean, you're good. When you script, you're good. Everything is going your way. I mean, you are setting yourself up for maximum flow, maximum success, and a very low sabotage rate. So those are the two different scenarios. Either you really aren't accounting for the season you're in and giving yourself enough flexibility and planning for the inevitable, or number two, you're really not understanding or have not really tried scripting enough to understand it enough that you have a lot more power than what you think when you script, because it sets you into the driver's seat so well, because it inevitably puts you through scenarios that could be stumbling blocks. And so you troubleshoot and you handle them before the days even come. And so you are set up for the utmost success. If I can do it and raise grandchildren, have 8 kids, have children at home, I'm still homeschooling, have a business, and I can plan my life using the scripting planner perfect method, that girl, you can too. I mean, this is the ultimate planning method to ensure success, moving the needle and helping you write a better story, because it It ignites the mind and the brain to get ideas, to troubleshoot, to script a life that you love, and to grow, level up, and be more than you ever thought you could be. It helps you self-audit. It helps you, which is enabling you to understand yourself more. It's realizing where your troubles may lie so that you can overcome them and level up there. It's just, everything is a full package in this planning method and the scripting method so that you can grow. And that's ultimately what we want, because a lot of us can stay very, very stagnant and never question what kind of program we're actually defaulting on. Planner Perfect in its method, if done correctly, will challenge you and the default mode that you operate. Because you will run into stumbling blocks, you might get into fear stops. You might think that you have nothing going on in your life and self-audit, where you felt real comfortable when you had to only write a couple to-dos in a square. There's no challenge there. You ain't challenged at all. You're like, oh yeah, sure, I got to do this, this, and this. And you mark it off. You feel real accomplished, and you feel accomplished at something very minor that doesn't push the needle, grow you, or level you up, and you cannot become all you were meant to be if you're not challenged in what you're doing in your day-to-day life and where you're headed and what your desires are. So again, Planner Perfect also requires you to know what you want, because you can't aim for something if there's no target. So know what you want, know where you're going, know who you are in Christ, so you stop losing your identity. Like, oh, I'm a people pleaser, or oh, I'm always late, or oh, I'm kind of fearful and uncomfortable and I'm not very confident, or oh, I'm too overweight for this, or I don't feel pretty enough here, or I could never do that. Those exact things can prevent you from becoming who you were called to be by God, because each one of us has a purpose with talents and gifts that we're to share. So it's time to come back home, to know our identity, know what we want, come back and get centered. And then when you're centered and you're where God wants you, and know that you are perfectly and wonderfully made, now you can let go of these labels. And now you can have those desires in that place. Instead of trying to work it out and change or adapt to the environment, you now, when you are stepped back in centered, those things, you can't help but be what you're desiring, because that's who you were, that's who you are. Do you see what I'm saying? How do you do that? I really want to cover that in another video, but one thing I can say is that it's understanding this knowledge helps give you then the just the light bulb moment of saying, oh, I'm not my label. I'm not my label. Oh, so my true identity is actually perfect. I'm perfect the way that I am. God made me whole. Oh, I thought that, I had issues, and I'm confident, and I know that's your environment and your programming that moved you away from who you were. So now the growth and the leveling up is the game of just overcoming and understanding who you are. That's life. That's where you're going, and that's where you're headed. And that's what we do. And so God wants to be able to use you as a vessel. And the only way that that's really truly possible is to understand who you are in Christ, to be your full potential. So anyways, girls, how to, to break that down again, how do you circumvent, your plans going awry? Know your season and know who you are and know what you want, and do the method correctly, and the troubleshooting is built in. So also someone asked in the question box, hey, have you ever done like a live, scenario where we're all scripting together, and we can kind of, a course where we can kind of ask questions for me, and I can help you along with that. I like that idea. I don't even know how that would look, but I'm very open to it. I think it might help a lot of women. Let me know in the comments if that's something that, you want me to open up and think about, probably on this platform here. But let me know, and let me know if this video has helped you out. I hope that it did, and I hope that it'll help you broaden your insight on the method enough that you can fully be just equipped to do the scripting method correctly so that you can write that better story. I love you guys, and until tomorrow.